fucking wow. Morons expecting special considerations just because of their race. It's fucking ridiculous.
Hello everyone and welcome to Fistful of Feminism.
Please don't tell me where that fist has been.
My name is Monica and today I want to talk about race.
Okay, Monica, why do you want to talk about race? Because depending on what you're talking about when it comes to race, it could branch from entirely fucking stupid to fucking racist.
I don't even see you as black.
Well, why do you need to see people as black? Why do you need to see people as any race? Can't you just see them as being people? Can't you judge people by their character as opposed to their race? Are you incapable of that?
With enough hard work, you can overcome the color of your skin.
Who says that? Nobody says that race is something to be overcome. It's just there. Why should anyone have to care about it?
It's just a coincidence that all of the nominees for Best Actor and Actress are white.
Or maybe, just maybe, that the best actor and actress of a predominantly white country just so happens to be white. Has that ever crossed your mind? For example, if you were to go to a film award ceremony in China, you would expect most of the award winners to be Asian, wouldn't you? I wonder why that is.
Why are you making this a race issue?
Well, why are you making this a race issue when it clearly has nothing to do with race?
Just don't pull the race card.
Well, don't pull the race card. Don't expect people to cater for you because of your race. People have no reason to care about your race.
Oh, there it is.
There he is!
Don't pull the race card.
Well, don't pull the race card.
When I hear this sentence, what I'm really hearing is, please don't call out white privilege. It hurts white people's feelings and makes them feel guilty about themselves. Or, race doesn't affect white people, so why should it affect you?
You're unable to think of this from the perspective of someone who disagrees with your ideological bullshit who isn't white. If someone were to be using their race as an advantage in the presence of someone else of that same race, can't you see how demeaning they might find it?
Racial bias is alive and well in Western society.
Citation needed.
And if you don't think race is an issue anymore, look around.
Okay, I'm looking around me right now and I don't see any way, shape or form race is an issue. But doesn't this at all sound just a little similar to when you hear a Christian say, how can you not believe in a God? Just look around you. Can't you just see God everywhere? I mean, I cannot see race issues when I look around me, and I cannot see a God when I look around me. These are delusions.
Do the names Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, or 12-year-old Tamir Rice ring any bells? These people were among hundreds of unarmed people of color that were killed by police in 2014.
Never mind anyone that's white that is a victim of police brutality. Nope, it has to be a race problem. Are you fucking serious?
Since this January, more than 7 trans women have been murdered in the US alone, most of them being women of color.
Well, one person being murdered is one person too many. But why should I have to hand out extra sympathy points because they are black and trans?
In Canada, the last federally operated residential school wasn't closed until 1996. That's less than 20 years ago.
I don't get it. How can something that has ended almost 20 years ago still be a problem today? It doesn't make any sense. Instead of bitching about the fact that it ended less than 20 years ago, can't you just be grateful for the fact that it isn't happening today? Also, look at why it closed. Maybe it's because society found it unacceptable, and yet you're trying to use this to claim that society is accepting racism. You fucking moron.
And the widespread genocide of indigenous people.
So are you trying to imply that all white people today are guilty by association, and thus all people of colour are oppressed by association? That is fucking stupid.
Since white people discovered the Americas. No, they did not.
But they did discover the continent. They were previously unaware of its existence, and then they discovered it. For example, if I were to discover a dead body, but someone else has seen it before, I have still discovered a dead body. And the reason why we don't say that the native population discovered it is because they're the native population. They haven't discovered it, they were already there. They didn't uncover something, they didn't migrate, they were just there. In the context of New Zealand, for example, you would say both the Māori and the British have discovered New Zealand. They have discovered it at different times, but they have still discovered it.
That people still deny happened, or they'll say that it doesn't even matter anymore. It's all in the past.
Well, if it's not affecting you today, why are you complaining about it today?
So, let's debunk some racist myths, shall we? But Monica, people of all races are protected under the law. That means that we're all equal. Not quite.
Well, when people make the claim that they suffer from institutionalized racism, they are often asked to point out any institution or law that actually discriminates against them, to which they have none. In fact, laws are often in favour of the minority races.
While it may appear that everyone is equal legally, federal law is only one socially constructed system. What about the media?
Citation needed. Provide evidence that the media as a whole is racist, because not everything shown in the media is socially acceptable, in case you haven't noticed.
Actual law enforcement.
Again, provide evidence that it's the law enforcement itself that is racist, as opposed to just some individuals.
Education, to name a few.
Yeah, education, where there is often affirmative action to support people of minority races, where there is special scholarships for people of minority races. Yeah, that is somehow against those people.
People of color are much more likely to face jail time than white people.
Maybe it's because people of colour just so happen to be committing more crimes. I actually looked at the crime statistics to find that when you look at black people and white people on aggregate, more murders are committed by black people. That is despite them being only 13% of the US population. That also applies for robbery as well. And that 13% population is committing a third of the instances of aggregated assault and rape. Am I trying to say that they are inferior or that we should introduce racial profiling? No. But what I'm saying is the group with the highest rates of crimes is going to be the ones most likely to end up in prison.
They are far less represented in the media.
In case you haven't figured this out by now, the media represents the population. If the population is predominantly white, then what the media would represent is predominantly white. Thus, a film that is Chinese would contain predominantly Asians.
And our education systems fail to teach us anything other than Eurocentric retellings of history.
I am just going to outright call bullshit on this one. Firstly, the history looked at within the education system would be primarily focused on the country that system is in. This is to ensure that all educational content available is actually relevant. However, the curriculum isn't locked into the country or countries its primary focus is on. In my secondary school, as part of the history curriculum, we were looking at the history of Japan and comparing it to the history of the United Kingdom.
Systemic racism is protected by privilege, and if we don't acknowledge it, nothing's ever going to change.
Except you haven't pointed to anything that is actually systemic racism.
Race shouldn't matter. Anyone can do anything with enough hard work. Why should people have to rise above their race?
It's got nothing to do with anyone rising above their race. This is about judging people by their character, by their merits, by their actions, as opposed to their race. What is wrong with not judging people by their race?
There's nothing wrong with being a person of color, at all.
You dishonest piece of shit, that was not what was said at all. It was never implied anywhere that any race is worse than another. You are the only one that has said that.
What is wrong is the ingrained ideal of white supremacy and the negative perceptions of race.
So now, not caring about race is white supremacy, somehow.
In the article, Blackness Isn't the Problem by Tony Bell, Tony says Trayvon and Michael's blackness wasn't the problem. The problem was the negative perceptions of that blackness and what spaces that blackness was allowed to occupy. In other words, the blaming of people of color for their oppression and discrimination is victim blaming and the real problem.
But to you it wouldn't be a problem if someone were to blame their lack of merit on their race.
People of color shouldn't have to rise above their race to become normal white people.
Apart from you, not one person has said that nor thought that.
There should be nothing wrong with diversity in race to begin with.
But no one said there's anything wrong with diversity. But what is wrong is when people confuse the word diversity with less white people, or when people think that diversity must be enforced.
And white people should just stop being so damn racist. Like, come on, guys.
Why does it only matter when a white person's racist? Racism isn't limited to any race. To only believe that one race should stop being racist is demonstrating racism.
I'm not like you. I don't see people by their race. I see them as people. Well, good for you. Are you sure you don't mean, I see this person of color just like I would see any other white person, just completely normal?
No, it means I judge people by their character, their merits, and their actions as opposed to their race. You are the one making the racist assumption here. Also, why is it so important to you to judge people by their race? It's the colour of their skin, not a mental condition.
Oh, you mean upholding the whole white is right type of thinking?
This is your racist thinking, no one else's.
Or white is normal.
It's normal for one in China to be Chinese. It's normal for one in India to be Indian. Why can't it be normal for someone in Europe to be European?
Or white is the majority. The actual majority of people on this earth are either Chinese or Indian.
But in the context of countries such as the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many of the countries in Europe, the majority population is white. Deal with it.
There's actually nothing normal about being white. That's just socially constructed and again, part of white supremacy.
The entire concept of normality is pretty much socially constructed, so you can't really exclude one thing from being normal, you have to exclude everything. And also, it is normal to be white in one of the countries I've listed earlier, just like how it is normal to be Chinese in China and how it's normal to be Indian in India. And also, one thing being normal does not make another thing bad or deviant. It just means one thing is normal. How is the supremacy in any way, shape, or form?
You know, you might mean well when you say something like this.
And you might mean well when you spit out your ideological bullshit.
That you don't see the person's color as an issue, and that is a good thing, that you don't see it as something that should change how you see them or perceive them or how you like them. That's awesome.
No fucking shit, but you have to take this and claim that it is white supremacy.
But what you're actually doing is invisibilizing or trying to invisibilize their race. The same way that white people have had their race invisibilized, so that we think that race isn't something that affects us. It only affects other people.
So apparently, white people having their race invisibilized is good, and not white people having their race invisibilized is bad. Okay, I want you to go see your doctor and ask them to write you up a prescription for some logic.
And in doing this, saying that you don't see someone's race, you might actually be erasing the struggles or part of their identity, which I'm sure you don't mean to do.
Not caring about someone's race, in terms of how you value someone, is not the same as saying I'm going to have no investment in your identity whatsoever.
People of color are not others.
Not valuing people by their race is not the same as putting them in this other category. You fucking retard.
And white people are not normal.
It's normal to be any race, you delusional prick.
To truly combat racism intersectionally,
here comes the ideology. Look at this intersectionally or you'll be punished for your crimes. Just become one of us or be sent to the other ones who had dared to speak their own minds.
we have to deconstruct what white supremacy means and acknowledge that it actually exists.
Okay, white supremacy along other types of racial supremacy do actually exist. Okay, they do exist, but they're only practiced by a select few fucked up individuals. But what you are trying to do is change the definition of supremacy so everything appears to be white supremacy. Even things that are clearly racially neutral suddenly become white supremacy to you. It is fucking ridiculous.
Saying that someone is pulling the race card is actually silencing them.
No, telling someone to stop pulling the race card is not prohibiting speech.
When they're actually trying to have real conversations about their own lives and their own identities and their own struggles.
Well, the real world doesn't care about their identity politics, oppression Olympics bullshit, nor will they care about it in an out-of-context situation, nor does anyone have a reason to invest themselves into it. So stop pulling the race card.
Something that's all too common in history. There's a reason that the hashtag Black Lives Matter isn't All Lives Matter.
And that reason is identity politics bullshit.
It's because for centuries, people of color, and particularly black people, have been told that they are lesser.
But that is unacceptable now, because all lives matter.
Unfortunately, not all lives are equal yet, but we can get there.
By not caring about race and valuing people by their character as opposed to their race.
By letting conversations about race continue to happen.
Actions speak louder than words. If your approach is going to be a whiny little bitch, then that really is not a great approach.
That's why hashtag Black Lives Matter is so important.
But it's not important.
Because their lives do matter.
Because all lives matter.
Don't invisibilize someone else's struggles.
I still don't get how valuing race is the same, not giving anyone special treatment because of their race, and not caring about whatever race someone is, somehow falls under saying they don't exist. It's ridiculous.
They are real, and just because you've never felt it doesn't mean that it should be any less legitimate.
Okay, but is it too much to ask to stop bitching about these supposed struggles in a context where they don't apply?
And of course, you might watch this video and look at me and say, well, you're just a white girl. How can you actually be talking about issues of race?
No, because I don't care about your race. Why is that concept so hard for you to grasp?
Well, actually, I am a person of color. I pass as white. I'm half white and half Filipino.
Wow, just look at how much I care.
But I do understand that there is a lot of privilege that comes with passing for as white as I am.
Here comes the ideology. Oh, fuck it, I've already done that.
But I think that issues of race and conversations of race are still incredibly important.
And I disagree.
So we need to change the way that we talk about race.
So talking about race doesn't work. What's the solution? Talking about race slightly differently. There's no way that can fail.
It does matter.
Saying that something matters doesn't make it so.
Especially to intersectional feminism.
But that's just your religion. I am not going to make accommodations for your beliefs.
If you remember back to episode 2 of Fistful of Feminism, which I'll put right here, you'll remember that I talked a little bit about the intersections of identity.
I identify as a gherkin.
And that's why race is so important when we talk about feminism. And to be a really good feminist, you should be combating racism as well. Our identities are complex.
It's always identity this, identity that. Don't you care about the actual actions behind the identity, or the words that are said as opposed to who's saying it?
It's all of these things coming together that actually paint the picture of what our struggles are and what oppression we face.
Yeah, I don't care about the oppression Olympics.
So race is incredibly important.
No, it is not.
This week I had so many resources for my research, and I've shared all of them down below in the description, so please take a look at them, especially the article Blackness Isn't the Problem, Feminism Demands Anti-Racism, and Why White People Freak Out When They're Called Out About Race.
Oh, the joy of religious text.
If you'd like, you can subscribe and go there and da-da-da. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up.
I would rather not.
Yeah, let's try not to be racist in ways that you might have never thought were racist before.
Yeah, I am not going to change the definition of racism when convenient.